Number one, change your environment. You gotta look at your friend group. See, a lot of people talk about you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's not actually it. You become the average of the 5 people you allow to influence you. The good news is you can allow yourself to be influenced by anybody you choose, even people online nowadays. You can choose the people that you would allow to influence you. You can think about those people and say, what would they do? What would the people that you admire that have achieved the thing that you want to, how would they assess your decisions? So oftentimes one of the fastest ways that you can just reset your environment, which might sound crazy and it scares people a lot, is to just move. Change cities, go to a new school, take a new job. I know that sounds crazy for a lot of you, but I've done it several times in my career. And every time it's allowed me to reset who I wanted to become. Not that there's anything wrong in who I was at my core, but I knew if I wanted to go to another level, I had to be around people that were way higher and way further along than me. I believe that who I surround myself with, I become. So if my energy is good, I'm going to attract other good energy people into my life. The problem is, if you are the smartest person or the richest person on your street, you gotta move streets. If you are the wealthiest person amongst your friend group, you gotta find a new group of friends. If you are the big dog in your city, find a new city. Your container, where you live, communicates your identity to everybody else and to yourself. And if you are not absolutely proud of all the things around you, then you got to upgrade your identity. You got to upgrade your friends. Here's what I believe. Most people are scared to let go because they're worried that they won't find a new group of friends to hang out with. But you won't even make the time in your calendar to go even explore. You won't have the time if you don't start saying no. Saying no to your current life allows you to say yes to your potential future, which leads us directly into step 2. One word, action. The difference between millionaires and non-millionaires is millionaires take action. I discovered that the gap between knowing something and doing something is the delay. As soon as you know, you have to default to taking action. If you're reading a book and there's a passage, a chapter, a paragraph, you're like, damn, that's really smart, that's really good. Put the book down. Go do something with it. If you were talking to a mentor and he gives you advice and you're like, wow, that's so good, why am I not doing that? Go do it. If something I've ever shared with you moves you inside and you have a feeling around it, take action. It's all about closing the gap from knowing to doing. Just freaking do it. Most people sit there and they overanalyze and they think about it and they spiral in their head. Is this the right decision? What would happen? What will people think? How about before you get inside your head, you just take action and do? Most people would rather play it safe and talk to people about their decisions, their actions, and doing the thing than actually just doing the thing. And it's funny because they'll waste 10 times more time talking about it, thinking about it, writing it down. How about no writing and just doing it? How about no scheduling and just doing it? How about no planning for it and just doing it? That muscle of just doing it is the muscle that has to be built for entrepreneurs to take advantage of opportunities, which leads directly into step 3, which is don't blame anyone or anything. Go look in the mirror. After I stopped drinking and partying, I found it interesting. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing or how they should act. But over time, everyone around me got sober. Everyone around me decided to quit drugs, stop drinking so much. And in my life today, many people don't even drink anymore at all. And oftentimes I get messages saying, hey man, I've been sober for 9 months thanks to you. You shared your story and it made me really reflect on what I was doing in my life. What I love about that is that they decided to put blame They decided not to put blame on other people. They decided to take control of what they had the power to control. See, if you defer your power to somebody else by saying, it's like, well, I could do it if my wife was on board, then you're making your change dependent on somebody else who you cannot control. My philosophy is very simple. Nobody has to change for me to win. If you want to see people change around you, then you have to be the example in a relationship. I think it comes down to this. I will focus 100% on me, and I'll expect that you focus 100% on you, so that we both have more of each other for each other. Think about that. Many people use other people in their life as the reason for failure. They will say, I can't do this because I have kids. How about because you have kids? How about because you have a family? How about the fact that your parents were obese and unhealthy, that you decided to get in the best shape of your life, so that you have the chance to have any kind of influence over these people versus using them as the reason that you cannot get your stuff together. Most people would rather point to somebody else, which is interesting because when you do that, you have 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. It allows you to not be accountable. It allows you to not have to be honest with yourself. Saying that person, whether they did that or didn't do that, doesn't change the way I respond. I could have used that as feedback to go be better, but instead I'm like, oh, that's the reason I can't win. Or you could go, I created the situation, I allowed that person into my life. I decided to have a relationship with that person. These are all the things you can control, and don't give the power up to somebody else to take away your power to change your life. Which leads us directly into step 4, which is it's easier to avoid the obstacle than to just run it over. Most people that want to get in shape, the number one move they could make is to grab all the junk food, all the snacky things, all the crap that's going to go down a slippery slope to failure and remove it from their house. It's easier to avoid. Most people are like, oh yeah, no, I've got mental toughness. You could do that, or you could just design the game to be easier to play. Before I go to bed, I set my phone with my alarm away from my bed. Why? Because when the alarm goes off in the morning, I have to get up to shut it off, which wakes me up. If I don't have things set up to disturb my comfort, that I'm trying to overcome the desire to not get up, is easily made. There's a good chance that I'm probably going to feed into the comfort and not make the best decision. Do you see how that works? Say, for example, you go to a barbecue. You can decide to show up after everybody's eaten and then enjoy the festivities without having to be enticed. Just make these decisions. It's always easier to avoid the situation than to try to bring on the motivation, the mental toughness to say no. I just decided to avoid the whole situation altogether. It's like a family gathering. When you know if you go there, your uncle's going to say something stupid and then he's going to talk crap and then you're going to have to respond, or you can just not go. You can decide my mental health, my emotions, all that. I'm just happier when I'm not around that person. You're allowed to say no. I see so many people talking about their fitness and all that stuff, and they go, well, I don't want to eat different than my family. And I go, why is that? Well, I don't want them to feel like I'm better than them, or that they feel guilty for eating in front of me. It's like, well, when you go to a restaurant, do you eat the same meal everybody else ordered? No, you don't. So don't lie to yourself about other people's feelings. That's what it is. Most people use other people's feelings as the reason to not stay consistent, as the reason to not avoid the obstacle. You're allowed to take all the food and throw it out. And if somebody wants to have a certain type of food, have them save it somewhere else in the house. Be like, hey, put it in a cupboard where I'll never go. Don't invite me to that family gathering either. Going forward, this person, I don't need them in my life. You can ask people to support you in your dreams and goals so that you don't even have to be the person that makes the decision. Just make the decision once. Let them know, hold the standard, which brings us directly into step 5, which is stop being so critical of yourself. I know this all too well. When this happens, I want you to lift your head instead of looking at your feet and stop worrying about where you messed up. I want you to lift your eyes up and look over the horizon. Focus on a vision. Focus on the future. Focus on what are you trying to create? Who are the people that you want around you? Who can you serve with your message? Who can you serve with your services? Tony Robbins says this often: if you get inside your head, you're dead. When you see yourself spiral, do one of four things. Number one, gratitude. Number two, vision. Vision the future I'm trying to create. Number three, work out. Number four, go help somebody. That gets me back on the path and helps me spiral up instead of spiraling down. What happens is high performers have the tendency to be really hard on themselves. There's a thin line between being hard on yourself that impacts your performance versus hard on yourself because of feedback for you to get better. The difference is, where are the feedbacks coming from? So that's why you want to pay somebody else to give you feedback, because when you pay for coaching, that information lands differently than when you're saying those same words to yourself in your head. People beat themselves down because they create the situation that they want to move away from. They need the pain to be able to push against it, and instead of the feedback from somebody else that's trying to make you better. Then you're going to want to live up to their exact expectations, not necessarily push away from the pain that you've created by trying to tell yourself how bad you are to try to push you forward. That desire to step into somebody's greatness, that they see you as through their eyes, is way easier than trying to overcome the negative talk that you use to propel yourself forward. Which leads us directly into step 6, which is replace your negative habits with positive habits. This one's big. When I stopped vaping, I replaced it with gum. When I stopped drinking, I started waking up really early to remind myself this wouldn't be possible with alcohol. When I have a bad habit, something I want to give up, I got to figure out what's that trigger for me to do the bad habit, and how do I replace it with something that's positive, usually though it's working out for me. Going for a walk, calling a friend. I even have used the concept of brushing my teeth 4 hours before bed to shut down my decision to eat any food after the fact. Because I know based off my Whoop and the data that doing so drastically increases my sleep and recovery to perform at my peak the next day. Even doing 10 push-ups. Imagine if every time you wanted to go and smoke a vape, you decided to do 10 push-ups. It wouldn't take long before those push-ups became the new norm. And the truth is, you gotta get rid of the old to make room for the new. You have to give up the bad habits so that you can build yourself forward with great ones. Most people make the mistake of just giving something up and then creating this void. Problem with a void is it will get filled, usually with the same bad habit or another, especially if it's something you've been doing for decades. It could be something silly, like playing video games or watching Netflix. Instead of getting up and doing your work, some people literally, as soon as they have a moment where they're in a flow, their brain switches and they open up a tab and they start typing INS, enter, and they go to Instagram and they have browser blindness and they come back 3 hours later and wonder where all their day went. In those moments, you need to design the situation to replace the old habit with something new. Honestly, if you need to use apps to block your internet browsers or certain websites, or you need to create some accountability, or use a timer, or play some music, or whatever it is to create this scenario, do it. The best way to replace a bad habit is to use something positive that takes over. Find the positive replacement first, which leads us directly into step 7, which is dedicate yourself to 1,000 days. Over the years, I've discovered that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but drastically underestimate what they can do in 3 years. I call it a dedicated choosing to be consistent around some new positive habits. Things like waking up earlier, reading 10 pages of a book, going to the gym every day, reading affirmations, gratitude, practice meditation, whatever it is, if you can dedicate yourself to betterment, trust me, in less than 3 years, you'll see an incredible impact right away, and usually a brand new person emerges. But it's a consistency in the identity building and what it tells you about who you are. See, most people feel like they lack confidence, or they don't have self-worth, or they feel like they're not good enough. But the truth is, it's all the times you made a decision that you didn't keep. Confidence is built from doing, especially the ones you made to yourself in private that eroded the ability for you to feel better about yourself, to build that confidence, to think bigger. Because you have proof that you are the kind of person that can be consistent, when you are consistent, it compounds. And what I've learned over the years is that consistency builds a foundation for growth. Otherwise, without consistency, you won't have anything strong to build on top of. And then you'll always build a little bit and fall back. Build a little bit, fall back. If you can dedicate yourself to 1,000 days, you will be unstoppable, which leads us directly into step 8. Which is reward yourself along the way. As much as I'm a person of sacrifice and saying no to things, I also have learned for the game to be fun to play, you have to give yourself many rewards along the way. That's why all of my goals have a positive reward of something I want on the back end of it. I sit down, I outline 12 goals for the year. I put a reward as the big goal, and I put many rewards along the way. That way I get some feedback as I accomplish these mini milestones along the way to that big goal. Most people just buy themselves whatever they want or go do whatever they want, and because of that, they don't really earn it. My whole philosophy is that if I want to have an epic meal, then I'm going to be consistent for 95% of the week. If I want to go buy myself something, then I'm going to go earn it by hitting some kind of financial reward in one of my companies maybe. If I want to buy that new supercar, guess what? That's on the back end of something massive. I decided to do a full body recomp, get down to 4 or 5% body fat. Lowest I was last time was like 8.5% body fat on September 30th from a DEXA scan. My next scan is December 22nd. That will unlock a reward like a game. The key is to design the game to play and to win. So to give yourself many rewards that will incentivize you to keep pushing when most people would want to give up. You want to implement rewards to hack your brain into wanting to do the hard things. Why? Because it just feels pointless then. Most people, when they have to do a hard thing, if they don't have a reason for doing it, it feels like stress. As soon as you give them a crusade, a mission, a movement that they're participating in, all of a sudden it becomes honorable. It becomes something they want to do. If we're going to climb the mountain, and there's no point, there's no reward, there's no recognition, then essentially the hard is just hard for no purpose. If we say that I'm climbing that mountain because I want to raise some money for charity, you will do way more to get to the top faster because other people are involved that you are going to support. The why is much bigger than the how. And if the how is hard, you need a massive why to keep pushing you forward. The reward creates that why, which leads directly into step 9, which is don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10. I believe comparison is the thief of joy if used improperly. Compare yourself to see what's possible. I've been building business for 20 years, so let's be honest. It's not that impressive. I was talking to a friend this morning and he said, you know, Jay, the one thing I can say about you is you are consistent. My year is fairly consistent. I do the same types of things with the same type of people and I change up the environment. But in regards to my effort, my focus, my process for winning, my revenue, it all stays consistent. So if you're starting off and you're trying to compare where I'm at on YouTube or my finances or my relationships, my health, my fitness, all these things, make no sense. Just know they are proof for what's possible, because I've been at it for a long time. You know, even these 23-year-olds, when they're driving Lamborghinis and all that, you have to think, they've been at it for like 10 years. So if you're seeing the 23-year-old and you're 35 comparing yourself to them, it makes no sense. There's entrepreneurial ages. So I want you to remember this. Your only job is to compare yourself to who you were yesterday and just ask yourself, are you getting better? Most people don't want to be honest because they'd rather just say, oh, that person is better than me, smarter than me, grew up in a better family, grew up in a better city. They want to use all the reasons of comparison to give them an out for the best of the best versions of themselves. Here's what I know. Nobody will ever be you. You are the original, most unique and awesome thing you could ever be is you. And to compare yourself to somebody else in any way, shape, or fashion is kind of silly. And you can use other people to be inspired. You should be glad for them. You should praise them. You should be super happy. Like, man, that's amazing. You're 23 and you're driving that car and you have that house. That's incredible, because it should be proof that it's possible. But for you to use that as a reason to beat yourself up and feel less than, that's where it doesn't actually help. If you like this content, hit the thumbs up and click the video right here. Catch you on the next one. Peace.